Welcome to the podcast. I'm David Jolly, and today we're diving into the life of perhaps the most colorful character to grace the Constitutional Convention. So, this story is about a man who loses his leg in a mysterious accident involving, well, either a carriage or an angry husband, a little unclear about that, and then charms his way through the highest circles of society on two different continents, and who, somehow, between romantic conquests, manages to write the most famous opening line in American political history. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Gouverneur Morris, the man who gave us We the People. Now, when most people think of the Founding Fathers, they picture stern, powder-wigged wearing gentlemen solemnly debating the future of democracy. Well, throw that image out the window because Gouverneur Morris lived like, well, he was starring in his own 18th century reality show. Born in 1752 to one of New York's wealthiest families, Morris entered the world with, well, every advantage that money could buy. And here's the thing about privilege. It either can make you complacent or incredibly bold. Well, Morris chose the latter, bold, and by his early 20s, he was already making waves in New York politics. And by his 30s, well, he was breaking hearts across two continents. But let's start back with, well, his leg, because honestly, you can't tell Morris's story without addressing this elephant, or I guess missing limb, in the room. You see, in 1780, Morris lost his left leg in what he claimed was a carriage accident. Simple enough, right? Well, wrong, because almost immediately whispers began circulating through Philadelphia society. The real story, at least according to the gossips, was far spicier. They claimed that Morris had been caught in a compromising position with another man's wife and had to make a rather dramatic exit through a second-story window. Well, the fall, cost him his leg, but apparently not his reputation as a ladies' man. Morris himself never confirmed nor denied these rumors. In fact, he seemed to enjoy the mystery. He'd joke about his wooden leg, calling it a timber toe, and would regale dinner parties with increasingly elaborate and probably fictional stories about how he lost it. The man understood the power of a good story, and he certainly wasn't about to let the truth get in the way of a legendary tale. Now, you might think, rightly, that losing a leg would slow down someone's romantic pursuits. But you would be wrong. If anything, Morris seemed to see it as a challenge. He developed a reputation as one of the most charming and persistent suitors in both American and European high society. His diary, which historians have gleefully pored over, reads like a scandalous novel. Affairs with married women, passionate romances with French aristocrats during his time as ambassador, and a seemingly endless parade of romantic entanglements that would make a soap opera writer weep with envy. Take, for example, his affair with Adelaide de Flahaut, a married French countess. Morris didn't just have a fling with her, he conducted a full-blown romance that lasted many years and produced, well, at least one child. And this wasn't some secret affair hidden in the shadows. No, Morris paraded around Paris society with Adelaide on his arm, attending salons and social gatherings as if adultery was just another form of entertainment, which in 18th century French aristocratic circles it basically was. But here's where Morris gets really interesting. Despite his reputation as a playboy, the man was absolutely brilliant. While he was charming his way through drawing rooms, he was also developing some of the most sophisticated political and economic ideas of his generation. He understood finance, international trade, and constitutional law better than almost anyone of his era. When the Constitutional Convention convened in Philadelphia in 1787, Morris was there as a delegate from Pennsylvania. And this is where our scandalous playboy transforms into one of the most important figures in American history. You see, writing a constitution isn't just about great ideas. Somebody has to actually put pen to paper and make these ideas sing. That somebody was Gouverneur Morris. The convention had been debating and arguing for months. They had agreements on major points, but their draft constitution read like it had been written by a committee. Well, which it had. It was clunky, repetitive, and about as inspiring as a tax code. Then they handed it to Morris for a final spit and polish, and, well, magic happened. Morris didn't just edit the Constitution. He transformed it. He took the dry, legalistic language and turned it into something that would inspire generations. Most famously, he changed the original opening from "We the people of the states of New Hampshire, Massachusetts," and so on, basically a long, boring list of all 13 states, to the powerful, unified, "We the people of the United States." These 4 words weren't just editorial flourish. They represented a fundamental shift in how Americans thought about their country. Morris understood that the Constitution wasn't just creating a government, it was creating a nation. "We the people" emphasized that this new country belonged to its citizens, not to separate states or distant kings. But Morris's contribution went far beyond the preamble. He crafted the elegant language of the entire document, turning constitutional law into something, well, approaching poetry. The phrases we memorize in school, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, well, these came from Morris's pen. What makes this even more remarkable is that Morris was, by all accounts, an elitist who didn't entirely trust democracy. He believed in strong government led by educated, wealthy men like himself. Yet somehow he wrote a document that would become a beacon for democratic movements worldwide. After the convention, Morris's adventures continued. Washington appointed him ambassador to France, where he arrived just as the French Revolution was hitting its stride. Most diplomats would have played it safe, but not our Morris. He threw himself into the chaos, helping French aristocrats escape the guillotine while conducting affairs with some of the most powerful women in Paris. His dispatches back to Washington read like thriller novels, filled with secret meetings, narrow escapes, and romantic intrigue. Morris eventually returned to America, where he continued his political career and, at age 57, finally married. But even then, he could not resist controversy, as he chose to marry Anne Carey Randolph. Now, prior to marrying Morris, Anne Carey Randolph had been involved in a scandal with her alleged complicity in the death of her newborn child in 1792, which had been rumored to have been fathered by her brother-in-law, Richard Randolph. Now, Richard was charged with the crime involving the death of this child, but later acquitted, having been represented by John Marshall, a future Supreme Court Chief Justice, and Patrick Henry, the man who gave us "Give me liberty" or "Give me death." Yeah, these were very high society circles. As you can understand, this marriage sent shockwaves through polite society. But our man Morris, well, he was not accepting of living a conventional life. So what should we make of Gouverneur Morris? Here was a man who embodied all the contradictions of his era. He was an aristocrat who helped create a democracy, a libertine who crafted some of the most enduring language in political history, a cynic who wrote words that would inspire idealists for centuries. Perhaps that's exactly what the moment required. The Founding Fathers weren't marble statues. They were complex, flawed, fascinating human beings dealing with an impossible task. Morris brought his whole self to that task, his brilliance, his sophistication, his scandals, and his unshakable confidence that he could charm his way through almost any situation. Every time you hear, "We the people," remember that those words came from a man who lived life on his own terms, who never let convention or even the loss of a limb slow him down, and who understood that sometimes the most important work gets done by the most unlikely people. Gouverneur Morris died in 1816, but his words live on. Not bad for a scandalous playboy with a timber toe.